Chapter 57:18. Disciple, are those two friends of yours reliable? In the guest room, Gu Fei sat on the bed and asked Wang Zhan, who was kneeling on the ground. His tone was extremely calm. Wang Zhan did not know what to say. Of the two friends his master mentioned, one was the princess of the East Moon Empire, while the other was a fatty of unknown origins. Come to think of it, the two of them did not seem to be very reliable. They seem to be looking down on me. Sigh, how did they know that I was only injured because I fought with Wu Chu? Gu Fei's tone was still calm. What? Wang Zhan was dumbfounded. His master actually fought with Wu Chu? Was that Wu Chu the master of the East Pole, the extreme emperor of the East Pole? Even children who did not know how to cultivate knew about the extreme emperor of the East Pole. All living beings in the East Pole knew that there was only one master, and that was the extreme emperor of the East Pole. All the factions in the East Pole submitted to the extreme emperor. The extreme emperor was the ruler of the East Pole, controlling the life and death of all living beings in the East Pole. I hope your friends don't do anything stupid. You can leave. After saying that, Gu Fei closed his eyes. In the next instant, his aura completely disappeared. If one didn't use their eyes, they wouldn't be able to sense his existence. It was as if he had become one with the void around him. Wang Zhan was inexplicably shocked. He carefully stood up from the ground and retreated out of the guest room step by step. He then carefully closed the door. When Wang Zhan turned around after closing the door, a hint of anger appeared on his face. How preposterous! Dong Shui had only arranged for an ordinary guest room for my master to stay in. That's not giving me any face at all. How could they possibly imagine their master's strength? Wang Zhan went to find Dong Shui furiously. Gu Fei obviously did not care. With his current cultivation level, he had transcended worldly affairs. So what if he was looked down on? So what if he was looked up to? It did not matter. However, Wang Zhan did not have Gu Fei's mentality. Your Highness, what do you mean by this? Wang Zhan found Dong Shui and shouted angrily at her. What do you mean? Dong Shui was enjoying a sumptuous lunch in the back garden of the city lord's manor. Fatty was roasting the thigh of an unknown divine beast on the grill at the side. A meaty aroma lingered in the air, stirring one's appetite. Humph! Wang Zhan stepped forward and grabbed the table. Then, with a ferocious swing, the table of delicacies was overturned and the floor was a mess. Wang Zhan, what's wrong with you? Fatty said without raising his head as he roasted his meat. Lord Fatty, it's none of your business, Wang Zhan said unhappily. Sure, you guys play. Fatty's gaze was fixed on the roasted meat. He was wondering if it was 80% or 60% better. What happened to you? Dong Shui, on the other hand, looked at Wang Zhan calmly. You're going too far. That's my master. You actually arranged a servant's room for my master to stay in? Wang Zhan said angrily. Isn't your master recuperating? I guarantee that no one will dare to disturb him. Dong Shui said indifferently. Preposterous. My master is my heavens. If you disrespect my master, I won't be polite to you either. Wang Zhan glared at Dong Shui. The current him was no longer the cowardly Wang Zhan of the past. His powerful cultivation had given him great confidence. Dong Shui smiled and said, You're not alone. No matter what you do, you better think of your mother and sister first. You dare to threaten me? Wang Zhan's hands were trembling in anger. I'm not threatening you. I'm just reminding you. Dong Shui said proudly. Want to fight with me? This Wang Zhan is still too inexperienced. As long as I have Wang Zhan's mother and sister in my hands, Wang Zhan will be under my control. He won't dare to have any complaints or betray me. Dong Shui, who was born in the royal family, also knew the art of trickery under her influence. If you want to control someone, you have to grasp that person's weakness. What was Wang Zhan's weakness? Of course, they were Wang Zhan's mother and younger sister, who he had always depended on. Good, very good. Wang Zhan turned around and left. He wanted to take his mother and sister away directly. However, after searching the entire city lord's residence, he couldn't find his mother and sister. Damn it! At this moment, Wang Zhan finally understood why Dong Shuai looked like she had him in the bag. Needless to say, his mother and sister must have been sent away by Dong Shuai. Wang Zhan had already guessed where Dong Shuai had sent his mother and sister. It seemed that a trip to the East Moon royal capital was out of the question. Wang Zhan was furious. He almost couldn't help but fall out with Dong Shuai, but he held back. Attacking his family was crossing his bottom line. Ha! Wang Zhan stood on the steps in front of the city lord's residence and laughed. His laughter spread throughout the entire city lord's residence. In the back garden of the city lord's residence. What you're doing is a bit too much. After the meat was cooked, he directly grabbed the golden beast's leg and took a big bite, tearing off a large piece of meat and eating it. Too much? Dong Shuai glanced at the food that Wang Zhan overturned on the ground and said disapprovingly. If Wang Zhan had an extremely powerful master, she wouldn't have used this method to control him. Unfortunately, his master was only an immortal state cultivator. Moreover, this immortal state cultivator was injured. A immortal state cultivator had raised an amazing disciple. This could only mean that this disciple's talent was too heaven-defying. Therefore, Dong Shuai only wanted to control Wang Zhan for her own use. As for his master, forget it. Of course, it would be best if she could control Wang Zhan's master as well. I have a feeling that you will regret what you did today. The fatty ate big bowls of wine and big mouthfuls of meat, his mouth full of grease. Dong Shuai didn't say anything. Now she knew why the imperial family was the most ruthless. For the sake of power, some people would really do anything. Kinship and blood were nothing in the face of power. From now on, I'm going to live for myself. Dong Shuai gritted her teeth. The fatty glanced at Dong Shuai and said nothing. Dong Shuai had already seen the imperial edict of the East Moon royal lord. Her father actually wanted her to release her second brother and give him the credit of capturing the sky-dominating war god as an apology. This made Dong Shuai shocked, angry, and unwilling. Why? Was it because she was a woman? If she was a man, the position of Crown Prince of the East Moon Empire would have nothing to do with the current Crown Prince and second brother. Right now, the East Moon royal capital was like a gigantic beast with its mouth wide open, waiting for her to walk into its mouth. Chapter 57:19. Currently, various factions were competing in the East Moon royal capital. Although it seemed peaceful on the surface, there was a great deal of fighting behind the scenes. If Dong Shuai escorted the Overlord War God back to the royal capital, it might cause a commotion. Even the commoners in the imperial capital could feel the formless tension in the air. It was like the calm before the storm. However, this was the East Moon royal capital after all, the largest and most prosperous city in the East Moon Empire. It was also the city with the most powerful cultivators in the empire. It was impossible to survive in the East Moon royal capital without some ability. Now Dong Shuai had actually chosen to defy the imperial edict. The crime of defying the imperial edict was no small matter. However, she had no choice, because Eunuch II had been killed by the fatty with a single punch, and the Divine Protector General had also been injured by the fatty. No matter what, the matter could not be resolved peacefully, because the new Empress faction would definitely make a big deal out of this. Dong Shuai's crime of defying the imperial edict was already set in stone. Since that was the case, Dong Shuai decided to be ruthless. At this time, the news of the injured Divine Protector General and Dong Shuai defying the imperial edict was spread in the East Moon royal capital by people with ulterior motives. For a moment, the entire royal capital was in an uproar. Everyone was in disbelief. After all, Princess Dong Shuai had always been an obedient girl in the eyes of the people in the royal capital, yet she was defying the imperial edict this time? How was that possible? The East Moon royal lord was furious, and the entire court was shocked. The people who were the most pleased were the new Empress faction, because in their eyes Dong Wei was on the Crown Prince's side. Getting rid of Dong Wei was equivalent to getting rid of a great supporter of the Crown Prince, and the second prince would have a greater chance of ascending the throne. However, the second prince was currently in a very miserable state. He was locked in a prison carriage by Dong Wei, together with the overlord war god. Mr. Jin of the Golden Sun's sacred land was also thrown into the prison carriage. Dong Wei planned to set off early the next morning. She wanted to openly and majestically escort Dong Wei Yuanliang, the overlord war god, and Mr. Jin into the East Moon royal capital. With Wang Zhan and Fatty as her trump cards, she had nothing to fear. She wanted to let those who were targeting her in the eastern capital know that she, Dong Wei, was not to be trifled with. If they angered this princess, the consequences would be dire. Strength was everything. No matter who you were, as long as you possessed absolute strength, you would be able to crush everything. Because this was a world where the strong were respected. Dong Wei's people were preparing. At the same time, she had also made contact with the Crown Prince in the imperial capital and learned about the situation in the imperial capital. The situation in the imperial capital was very disadvantageous to her. But so what? Tomorrow, there would be a good show in the East Moon imperial capital. Time passed very quickly. Whether it was the various factions in the East Moon royal capital or Schwer's people, they were all rubbing their hands in glee, while some factions were already prepared to watch the show. Would the Crown Prince's faction crush the new Empress faction, or would the new Empress faction drag the Crown Prince down? No matter who won, it would be a good thing for the other factions. Wanzhan, East Moon royal capital, Infinite Sword Sect. On the top floor of the Infinite Sword Pavilion, Sword Master Dong Yu sat cross-legged in the air. He suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, a person opened the door and walked in carefully. That person walked up to Sword Master Dong Yu with light steps. "Master, I've already investigated. Princess Dong Yu will leave Tianwei City tomorrow morning and will probably arrive at the imperial capital by evening," the black-clothed person said carefully. "That's it." Sword Master Dong Yu did not even open his eyes. That person called Wang Zhan seems to have a powerful background. His master has appeared, the black-clothed person answered. "I don't care who he is. Do you think I'm no match for him?" Sword Master Dong Yu suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the black-clothed person like a sword. The black-clothed person trembled in fear and hurriedly said, "No, Master is the greatest sword of the East Moon Empire. Those who dare to offend Master must be tired of living," he hurriedly flattered. "Keep an eye on them and report back." Sword Master Dong Yu said coldly. "Yes, Master." The black-clothed person retreated in fear. "He has a master. Don't I have a master?" After seeing his disciple leave, Sword Master Dong Yu's expression also turned grim. Sword Master Dong Yu's master was naturally the Sword Saint of the Infinite Sword Sect. No matter how powerful Wang Zhan and his master were, could they be more powerful than a Sword Saint? Sword Master Dong Yu sneered. "That girl dares to humiliate my son. I'll teach her a lesson." At this moment, in the imperial harem of the East Moon Empire, the new Empress directly smashed the jade cup in her hand. The servants around her were all terrified. "All of you, leave!" The new Empress wore a phoenix crown and a phoenix robe. She sat upright and still, exuding an imposing aura. The surrounding servants hurriedly bowed to the new Empress, then bowed and left. A middle-aged eunuch standing next to the new Empress did not move. "Young mistress, that girl is so arrogant." "Should we?" the middle-aged eunuch said as he stretched out his right hand and slashed diagonally in the air. "Do you have any good ideas?" A cold gleam flashed across the new Empress' eyes. We can ask the people of the sky-piercing tower to do it. That way, there won't be any trouble. After all, they're professionals in this aspect," the eunuch said after some thought. "All right, we'll go all the way this time. We'll send that girl on her way. It'll be best if we can frame the Crown Prince. That way, we'll have an excuse to depose the Crown Prince." Dong Xianfeng squinted her eyes. Her lips curled up slightly, revealing a cold smile. Yes. Dong Xianfeng's confidant could not help but admire Dong Xianfeng even more. As expected of the young mistress, this plan of killing two birds with one stone was truly vicious. At this moment, in another part of the imperial palace, in a warm room, Royal Lord Dongyu was reading through memorials while the Crown Prince, Dong Wehaoyang, waited on his side. What's going on with the Hu family? Do they want to break off the engagement? Royal Lord Dongyu directly threw the memorial in his hand onto the ground. What? Crown Prince Dong Wehaoyang was shocked. He quickly picked up the memorial and took a look. It was indeed from General Hu Ben. He wanted to break off the engagement. The engagement between the number one of the younger generation of the Hu family and Dong Weishuer was not something that could be easily broken off. Furthermore, the engagement could only be broken off by Dong Weishuer, not the Hu family. Clearly, the Hu family wanted to draw a clear line between them. To the Hu family, the current Dong Weishuer was definitely a huge trouble. Anyone who got involved with her would be in deep trouble. The news of Dong Weishuer defying the imperial edict had already spread throughout the entire eastern capital. Father, this... The Crown Prince looked at Royal Lord Dongyu in shock. The third girl has really gotten herself into big trouble this time. Royal Lord Dongyu felt helpless as well. It's such a nice day. Chapter 57:20. Dong Weishuer reorganized herself in Skywest City. She gathered thousands of people and formed a new team, escorting the tyrant war god and Dong Wei Yuanliang back to the East Moon royal capital. The team set off in a grandiose manner, their banners fluttering in the wind. Dong Weishuer wore a feather robe and rode at the front of the team on her horned fire tiger. Wang Zhan and Fatty followed beside her. These two were her trump cards. With Wang Zhan and Fatty by her side, Dong Weishuer did not have to worry about anyone attacking her. She wanted to return to the royal capital in style. However, Gu Fei did not show himself. Wang Zhan prepared a carriage for him. When the team set off, Gu Fei entered the carriage. In this group, there was only one carriage with a carriage. In fact, this made this carriage very conspicuous in the group. However, Gu Fei did not care. A distance of several hundred kilometers was nothing to an Earth-realm cultivator who could fly, but it would take at least half a day to walk on the ground. The road between Skywest City and the royal capital was not difficult. Moreover, everyone in Dong Weishuer's team was a cultivator, so they were much stronger than ordinary people. The team's speed was not slow either. However, everyone knew that the journey would not be easy, because many people did not want Dong Weishuer to return to the royal capital. Especially the new Empress Dong Xianfeng and the others. Because Dong Weishuer had thrown Dong Wei Yuanliang into a prison carriage and escorted him back to the royal capital, it was a great humiliation to Dong Wei Yuanliang. As for the Empress, Dong Weishuer humiliating Dong Wei Yuanliang was like slapping them in the face, and it was a resounding slap. If Dong Weishuer really escorted Dong Wei Yuanliang back to the royal capital, where would the Empress and the others put their face? If Dong Wei Yuanliang, the second successor to the throne, was really stuffed into a prison carriage and escorted back to the royal capital, he would probably never be able to sit on the throne for the rest of his life. After all, the royal lord did not have the final say in the Dongwei royal family. There was still the royal elders. It was impossible for the elders of the royal family to allow a prince who had lost all face in front of the entire city to inherit the position of the emperor. The royal family of Dongwei also wanted face. Is there going to be a good show so soon? Gu Fei, who was in the carriage, suddenly frowned. They had only left Sky Moon City for less than an hour, but there were already many powerful auras in the vicinity. There was a direct road between Tianwei City and the Imperial City. The path passed by forests, valleys, and even rivers. Therefore, it would not be difficult for those people in the dark to make a move on Dong Weishuer. This was because there were many places where he could set up an ambush and wait for Dongyu and Shuai to fall into the trap. At this moment, Gu Fei sensed that there were many people hiding in the woods on both sides of the road. Gu Fei didn't warn Dongyu, Shuai, and the others. He also didn't tell Wang Zhan that there was an ambush ahead. This was also a form of training for Wang Zhan. If Wang Zhan was prepared in advance, then there would be no training at all. Gu Fei wanted to test Wang Zhan's ability to deal with unexpected situations. People had to go through all kinds of tests to truly grow. No one could succeed casually. Dong Yu Shuer rode at the front of the group on her horned fire tiger. She wore battle armor and boots, with an ancient sword hanging on her waist. She looked valiant and heroic, and as she looked around, there was a smug expression on her face. As long as she could return to the imperial city, her second brother Dongwei Yuanliang would be finished. No one would be able to threaten the crown prince's position. Most importantly, she wanted to live for herself. The great merit of capturing the overlord war god alive could be exchanged for what she wanted from her father. She didn't even hesitate to defy the imperial edict. The more Dong Yu Shuer thought about it, the more excited she became. I, Dong Yu Shuer, also have a day where I can make a name for myself. In the future, I can do whatever I want and go wherever I want. As long as I'm strong enough, even my father won't be able to control me. Wang Zhan, who was following Dong Yu Shuer, felt extremely depressed. This Dong Yu Shuer seemed to have changed a little, but he couldn't tell what had happened to her. At this time, the trees on both sides of the road began to grow denser. Stop! The fatty suddenly raised his hand and shouted. The advancing group immediately stopped. What? Everyone was shocked. Dong Yu Shuer looked at the fatty in confusion. At this time, there was an ear-piercing sound. Rays of black light suddenly shot out from the trees on both sides of the road, shooting towards Dong Yu Shuer and the soldiers in the group. The arrows aimed at Dong Yu Shuer and the fatty were all blocked, but they couldn't block the arrows that were aimed at the others. In the next moment, screams could be heard everywhere. The soldiers that Dong Yu Shuer brought with her from Skyyu City were all hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. Pfft! A long arrow was shot straight at the carriage Gu Fei was in, stabbing into the wooden plank next to the carriage's entrance. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Dong Yu Shuer shouted at the top of her lungs. Soon, the soldiers under Dong Yu Shuer moved quickly. The archers immediately readied their bows and counterattacked. Screams could be heard from the trees on both sides of the road. At the same time, an old man in green suddenly appeared in front of Dong Yu Shuer and the others. A cold aura surged out from this person's body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop rapidly. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Mysterious Yin Qi? Gu Fei, who was in the carriage with the group, sensed the aura and his expression turned grim. Could this guy be the successor of Old Ghost of Yin Mountain? Gu Fei thought to himself. This Old Ghost of Yin Mountain was not someone to be trifled with. With his current cultivation and battle strength, he was far from being a match for Old Ghost of Yin Mountain. One should know that Old Ghost of Yin Mountain was in the same realm. You stay then scram. The person who came was extremely arrogant. In his eyes, these people were just ants. What did you say? Dong Yu Shuer was already annoyed when she saw someone blocking the way. Now that this guy told her to scram, she laughed angrily. Which one of you wants to have a go? Dong Yu Shuer said to Wang Zhan and Fatty. Old Gu, you go. Dong Yu Shuer suddenly turned to Wang Zhan. All right, Wang Zhan said helplessly. He then appeared in front of the old man in a flash. You're courting death! The old man in green roared and threw a punch at Gu Fei. A violent force exploded, causing the surrounding void to tremble. At the same time, a group of people charged out from the trees on both sides of the road and began fighting with the soldiers of Sky Moon City. A masked man waved a broadsword in his hand and charged into the carriage that Gu Fei was in. In the next moment, the unlucky guy flew out of the carriage and smashed into the old man in front of the group. Boom! Wang Zhan and the green-robed old man's fist collided in an instant, resulting in a deafening explosion. Wang Zhan felt a huge force coming from the old man's fist, causing him to stagger back. The old man only took a step back and dodged the attack. Chapter 57:21. The people in the dark could no longer sit still. There were truly many people in the East Moon royal capital who did not wish to see Dong Shui return to the capital, as once she did, it would immediately ignite the conflict between all parties. Originally, all the major organizations were fighting in the dark. Once Dong Shui returned to the imperial capital, all the hidden battles would immediately turn into open conflict. The entire Dongwu Empire would probably descend into chaos. Even the East Moon Empire did not wish to see internal strife erupt in the East Moon Empire, which would give the enemy an opportunity to take advantage of. At this moment, at the borders of the East Moon Empire, the million-strong army of the tyrannical Heaven Tyrant Empire pressed down. Even the number one war god of the East Moon Empire, Dongwu Lingxiao, had already rushed to Black Qilin City. With Dongwu Lingxiao overseeing Black Qilin City, they managed to stop the million-strong elite army of the tyrannical Heaven Dynasty. The war between the tyrannical Sky Empire and the Eastern Moon Empire was on the verge of breaking out. Moreover, in order to rescue the Overlord War God, the tyrannical Sky Empire had even sent out countless elites to infiltrate the East Moon Empire. These people were all waiting for an opportunity to strike. In particular, the Tong Tian Tower was also involved. The Sky Split Tower was the East Pole's #1 assassin organization. It was a force that was overseen by Killer Saint. In the East Pole, no one dared to ignore the existence of the Sky Split Tower. In the last few hundred kilometers of the journey, those people would do anything to harm Dong Shui. Dong Shui and the others would surely encounter unimaginable dangers along the way. Not many of them would be able to reach the capital in the end. However, everyone knew that as long as they could reach the Imperial City and enter the Imperial City, they would be able to enjoy glory, splendor, and wealth. Her Highness the Princess had promised. Otherwise, who would be willing to play around with their lives when the journey was so dangerous? Only great rewards could attract people, give them hope, and make them work for Dong Shui. It had to be said that Dong Shui, who was born in the Dongwu royal family, truly understood people very well. Even Wang Zhan had no choice but to listen obediently. Sure enough, just an hour after they left Sky Moon City, when they passed by a forest, countless black shadows appeared on both sides of the road. These fellows were dressed in black tights and wore black hoods. There were 2 holes in the hoods, revealing only their eyes. Kill! Battle cries rang out, accompanied by the flashes of swords. Many people fell to the ground, and the smell of blood permeated the air. The people who attacked Dong Shui's group were meticulously arranged, each of them as ferocious as wild beasts, and none of them were afraid of death. Pooh! One of the black-robed men stabbed a battle soldier in the chest, but he was immediately cut down by a dozen or so battle soldiers who swarmed around him. However, this fellow was extremely ferocious. When he fell to the ground, he even dragged a battle soldier with him. Then, he pounced forward and bit the battle soldier's neck. These guys really didn't want to live anymore. The soldiers under Dong Shui were not cowards, but they were still frightened by the ferocity of these black-clothed men. Countless black shadows directly charged into Dong Shui's group, causing them to fall into chaos. For some unknown reason, the carriage Gu Fei was in had become the target of those black-clothed men. Gu Fei had just sent one of the black-clothed men flying when another 2 black-clothed men rushed in from outside. Gu Fei then sent another 2 black-clothed men flying. However, another 4 or 5 black-clothed men rushed in. Holy shit, it's not over yet? Gu Fei was depressed. I just wanted to keep a low profile for a while. Was that wrong? With a wave of his hand, the 4 or 5 black-clothed men directly smashed through the carriage and flew out. Master! Wang Zhan was shocked when he turned around and saw this. He immediately flew up and pounced at the carriage Gu Fei was in. Sigh! Seeing that Wang Zhan was abandoning her, Dong Shui wanted to stop him. However, at this moment, a sharp arrow was shot directly at her. Dong Shui tilted her head to the side, and the arrow flew past her forehead, hitting a fighter not far behind her. The soldier let out a blood-curdling screech, fell off his horse, and breathed his last. Damn it! Dong Shui was both shocked and furious. She never thought that the journey would be smooth sailing, but she did not expect those people to be so eager to make a move. The carriage was smashed, and Gu Fei stood on the carriage without a carriage. His body did not emit the slightest fluctuation of yuan qi, as if he was an ordinary person without any cultivation. At this moment, more than 10 black-clothed men held weapons in their hands and charged fiercely at Gu Fei, who was standing on the carriage. Gu Fei stood proudly on the carriage with his hands behind his back. A light breeze blew past, causing his clothes and hair to flutter slightly. His expression was calm. He did not take these people seriously at all. "Is this guy the king of the world of posers?" Fatty was speechless when he saw this. In Fatty's eyes, Gu Fei's calm demeanor was undoubtedly showing off. A guy who could show off at any time, anywhere, was the king of posers. However, Fatty did not expect that Gu Fei did not care about showing off at all. "Courting death!" At this moment, Wang Zhan directly landed beside Gu Fei like a god descending from the heavens. He then grabbed the air with his right hand, and a saber on the ground immediately flew into his hand. Swoosh! Wang Zhan swung the saber in his hand in a circle, and a perfect circle of saber light immediately slashed out in all directions. Wherever the blade light passed, the dozen or so black-clothed men charging at Gu Fei were sent flying. Each of the black-clothed men's upper and lower bodies were directly separated from each other. "What?" The other black-clothed men were stunned seeing this. Wang Zhan killed more than a dozen black-clothed men with a single move. He stood beside Gu Fei, holding the saber in his hand, and glanced at the surrounding black-clothed men in a majestic manner. "Divine state! It's the divine state!" One of the black-clothed men suddenly exclaimed. "So what? I'm also in the divine state." At this moment, a loud shout was heard, and a tall guy walked out from the forest. This guy was not dressed in black, and he did not have a black mask on his head. Instead, he had an animal skin tied around his waist, and his upper body was bare. He carried a huge saber on his shoulder. This guy had a ferocious face, fluffy hair, and a pair of big bare feet. He strode in big strides towards Gu Fei and Wang Zhan. His whole body was filled with murderous intent, as if he was a barbarian from the wilderness. He gave off an incomparably wild and ferocious feeling. "Damn, where did this barbarian come from?" Wang Zhan could not help but be shocked when he saw this guy. He could feel a dangerous aura from this guy. "Little guy, you don't even know your grandfather, Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge. How can you survive in the underworld?" The barbarian guy grinned at Wang Zhan. This guy did not even smile, but when he smiled, he suddenly became even more ferocious. "Kill!" More than a dozen soldiers directly charged towards Wild King. "Ha!" Wild King laughed loudly as he swung his saber horizontally, and the dozen soldiers were instantly cut in half at the waist. "A bandit from the Black Deity Ridge?" Chapter 57-22. The Black God Ridge was a famous place in the Donghua Empire. The Black God Ridge gathered the most powerful bandits in the entire Donghua Empire. These people were all brave and ruthless. The Lord of the Black God Ridge was definitely an impressive figure to be able to gather all the unruly, vicious, and merciless fellows in the entire East Moon Empire. This Black God Ridge Lord was truly an extraordinary existence, because not only was the Black God Ridge Lord powerful, he was also mysterious. No one had ever seen his true appearance, and no one knew if the Black God Ridge Lord was a man or a woman. The fact that the people of the Black God Ridge suddenly appeared to attack Dong Wei-shuer's group shocked her. But so what? Although Dong Wei-shuer was surprised, she was not worried. The Black God Ridge was just a motley crew of bandits. In Dong Wei-shuer's eyes, these bandits were not worth mentioning at all. However, when Wild King of the Black God Ridge made his move, Dong Wei-shuer knew that he was not someone to be trifled with. He was actually a godly realm cultivator. The godly realm, be it the beginner or the peak, they were all real godly realm cultivators. Being in the godly realm, they could crush all cultivators below the godly realm. It couldn't be helped, this was the difference in cultivation level. Once the godly realm cultivator made his move, the soldiers at Dong West Shui, brought from Skyleap City, were in trouble. Although they were all elite soldiers, they were still a mess against the godly realm cultivator. They could only be tortured. Boom! Wild King was extremely wild. He swung the machete in his hand, and an extremely sharp saber-chi immediately rushed out from the machete. It instantly soared hundreds of meters, and directly slashed at the carriage that Gu Fei and Wang Zhan were in. Wherever the saber-chi passed, people and horses were thrown off their feet. Anyone or anything that was in its way was directly split in half. The power of this slash could only be described as killing gods and demons. Meanwhile, Gu Fei stood indifferently on the carriage. He had no intention of making a move. Wang Zhan sneered and stood in front of Gu Fei. Then, he threw a punch at the sharp saber-chi. The violent fist force turned into a ferocious tiger. The fist force was like a tiger, and its power could be considered terrifying. One had to know that Wang Zhan wasn't someone to be trifled with. He had been painstakingly trained by Gu Fei's divine sense. What kind of ferocious fellow hadn't he seen before? Buzz! The air trembled as the two forces collided. Wang Zhan's fist, which had transformed into a ferocious tiger, was split into two halves. However, at the same time that Wild King's sword energy split the ferocious tiger in half, the sword energy was also neutralized by Wang Zhan's fist energy. The first fight between the two immortal realm warriors seemed to be a tie. However, Wild King of the Black God Ridge narrowed his eyes when he saw this scene. Others might not be able to tell, but Wild King knew. On the surface, it looked like a draw. However, Wild King was using a large machete. Although the machete did not look like much, it was a true divine weapon. As for Wang Zhan, he used his fists. This was the difference. If both of them used their fists, the outcome would be unpredictable. Interesting. Fatty laughed from afar. Wang Zhan's improvement was beyond his expectations. This fellow seemed to be improving every day. This kind of cultivation speed was really shocking. With Wang Zhan's cultivation speed, it would not take long for him to break through to the middle stages of the immortal state. This was also the reason why Fatty looked at Wang Zhan differently. Moreover, Wang Zhan's sister had the rare celestial body of extreme yin. This kind of body was a natural talent in the cultivation world. Even those super sects would be jealous of her. Fatty had his eyes on Wang Zhan's sister. The Great Bandit of the Black God Ridge. What a big name, but it seems that he is just SOSO. Wang Zhan stood proudly on the horse carriage, blocking in front of Gu Fei. He stared coldly at Wild King, who was dragging his machete and approaching him step by step. Is that so? Wild King grinned as he stomped on the ground with his right foot. His whole body leaped up from the ground and directly arrived above Wang Zhan. Then, he slashed down with his machete. This time, it was not saber-chi, but a real machete. Wild King's power was unparalleled and incomparably wild. This time, the power of his machete was much stronger than the previous one. It was as if he could even split a sacred mountain in half with his machete. One fist to break the limit! Wang Zhan continued to throw a punch. The instant his fist punched out, it actually started to shine with a dazzling golden light, as if it had been forged from refined gold. All the power of the fist was concentrated on Wang Zhan's right fist, without a single bit of it leaking out. Wild King's pupils shrank. With his cultivation level, he could naturally see the power of Wang Zhan's fist. The power of the fist was not released, but once it exploded, it would definitely be earth-shattering. You want to use your fist to block my machete? Wild King grinned as he ruthlessly slashed at Wang Zhan's golden fist. Gu Fei, who was standing behind Wang Zhan, was still calm and collected. Although the power of Wild King's machete was strong, he was still incomparably calm. It was as if even if a sacred mountain collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. Gu Fei had a lot of confidence in Wang Zhan. However, the onlookers were not optimistic about Wang Zhan's chances. One had to know that Wang Zhan's opponent was Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge. He was a ferocious person of the East Moon Empire. In the East Moon Empire, Wild King was an existence that caused people to turn pale at the mention of his name. However, everyone seemed to have forgotten that the overlord of War God was also captured by Wang Shan. Of course, at that time, Wang Shan was still Gu Fei's doppelganger in the unbounded realm. Now, Wang Shan was no longer Gu Fei's doppelganger. His battle experience, battle techniques, and even his experiences could not be compared to Gu Fei's. However, this was a secret between Gu Fei and Wang Shan. In this world, only the two of them knew about it. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Wang Shan's golden fist instantly collided with Wild King's machete. Clang! When the fist and the machete collided, the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Everyone felt that it was incomparably ear-piercing. The surrounding soldiers covered their ears and fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Even Dong Shuer, Fatty and the rest felt their ears buzzing. What? Wild King, who originally thought that he could kill Wang Shan with a single slash, could not believe the scene in front of him. His opponent had actually used his fist to block his machete. He only felt a strong force exploding from his opponent's fist. It was unstoppable. Both of his hands trembled, and the hands that were holding the machete immediately became numb. Then, the machete actually flew out of Wild King's hands. Wild King felt as if he had been hit by a divine mountain. He flew out and crashed into the forest beside the main road. On the horse carriage, Wang Shan still maintained his punching posture. His posture was extremely cool. Everyone who witnessed this scene was stunned. Just one punch, and he sent Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge flying with his machete? Chapter 57-23. Wang Shan sent Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge flying with a single punch, shocking everyone. Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge was a ruthless man of his generation. In the East Moon Empire, he was someone who would turn pale at the mention of his name. However, such a powerful and ruthless man was actually sent flying by a single punch from Wang Shan. Not only were countless soldiers stunned, but even Dong Shuer and Fatty were shocked. Especially Dong Shuer. She was the princess of the East Moon Empire and the most beloved daughter of the East Moon Imperial Lord. She knew that the East Moon Empire had once sent troops to attack the Black Deity Ridge. However, after a great battle, the army of the East Moon Empire was utterly defeated by the bandits of the Black God Ridge. They were utterly routed and returned in defeat. Even the East Moon Empire could not do anything to those ruthless people of the Black Deity Ridge. However, who would have thought that Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge would actually be defeated by Wang Shan with a single punch? This did not mean that Wild King of the Black Deity Ridge was useless, but that Wang Shan's battle prowess was too heaven-defying. Roar! Just as everyone was in shock, a roar came from the forest. The next moment, a powerful wave of yuan qi erupted from the forest beside the road. Countless trees were directly shattered by this wave of energy. Wood chips flew everywhere, and many people were hit by the wood chips. They screamed and retreated. An extremely wild figure rushed out of the forest and charged towards Wang Shan. This person stretched out his right hand, and the machete that had fallen far away immediately flew back into his hand. His right hand, which was still bleeding, grabbed the machete. Kill! Without any hesitation, Wild King, whose hair was disheveled and mouth was bleeding, roared and slashed at Wang Shan again. You're not done yet? Wang Shan was furious. He could not retreat because his master was behind him. He could not let this guy scare his master. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the machete that was slashing at him. He still ignored the sharpness of the machete. His hand seemed to be cast from immortal divine iron, and when it collided with the blade, there was a sound of metal rubbing against each other. How is this possible? Wild King was really stunned. Why was this guy even more arrogant than him? He actually used his hand to grab his machete. Could it be that this guy's Taoist body was so strong that it could ignore a divine-level Tao tool? He had never met such a powerful Taoist body. Because no one had ever dared to use their flesh and blood to resist his machete. The strength that Wang Shan had displayed had truly exceeded his understanding. In the next moment, Wang Zhan's left fist landed heavily on Wild King's face. Wild King's face immediately bloomed. He screamed in pain as he let go of the machete in his hand and flew backwards. At this moment, the black-robed men actually began to retreat. You want to leave? Schwer took out the east moon bow and pulled the bowstring. An arrow of light immediately condensed on the bowstring. Swoosh! As soon as Schwer loosened her grip, the arrow of light turned into a beam of cold light and shot out, piercing through the heart of a man in black who was about to retreat into the forest. The morale of Dong Yu Schwer's soldiers was greatly boosted, and they charged at the black-robed men with all their might. Wild King landed on the ground and knocked a few soldiers into the air. He then turned around and fled. To think that Dong Yu Schwer's team was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons, he had been careless. After being sent flying by Wang Zhan's 2 consecutive punches, Wild King had no choice but to flee. If he did not escape, the 3rd punch would really kill him. Even the ferocious bandits of the Black God Ridge treasured their lives very much. After all, they only had one life. If they were to die, everything would be over. Wild King did not want to die here. Wang Zhan saw that Wild King was about to escape and wanted to chase after him. Don't chase a cornered enemy, Gu Fei said calmly. Wang Zhan heard this and immediately retracted his right leg that had just stepped out. Yes, master! At this moment, Dong Yu Schwer continuously shot arrows of light, continuously killing the escaping black-robed men. Needless to say, Dong Yu Schwer's archery skills were really not bad. 1 arrow for 1 person. In the blink of an eye, 7 to 8 black-robed men had been killed by her. Dong Yu Schwer saw that Wild King was about to escape and immediately shot an arrow at him. Damn it! Wild King was enraged. He hurriedly dodged, but the arrow was like lightning. A flower of blood bloomed on his left shoulder. He then staggered and fell to the ground, swallowing a mouthful of mud. He leapt up from the ground with all his might and plunged straight into the forest beside the road, quickly disappearing far away. Little girl, if I don't take revenge for this, I am not a man. Wild King's angry roar could be heard from afar. Hearing this, Dong Yu Schwer's face turned pale. It was not a good thing to be remembered by a godly state fella. Moreover, this fellow was a bandit of the Black Deity Ridge. She glanced at Fatty beside her. Why are you looking at me? Fatty also looked at Dong Yu Schwer. I say, you have received benefits, you should help me no matter what. Dong Yu Schwer said in annoyance. The reason why she was so confident and wanted to return to the imperial capital in glory and slap the new empress in the face was because she had invited Fatty, a person who was not even afraid of an infinite prime. On that day, when the infinite prime came to Black Qilin City, only Wang Zhan and Fatty could still stand, facing the might of the supreme existence. That scene had been deeply imprinted in Dong Yu Schwer's mind. It was too shocking. That was the supreme existence of the infinite prime, the most powerful existence in the infinite realm. Once the infinite prime appeared, all living beings would bow down. Those who were not afraid of the pressure of the supreme existence were naturally not ordinary people. After receiving benefits from you, I will naturally protect you. With me here, no one can touch you. Fatty patted his chest and said. He continued, I only promised not to let anyone touch you, but I never agreed to be your fighter. Dong Yu Schwer was speechless. Dragon Elephant Man Yang Yunfei, do a head count and organize the troops. Dong Yu Schwer ordered Dragon Elephant Man and Yang Yunfei. Although she couldn't order Fatty around, she could order her subordinates around. Yes, Your Highness! Dragon Elephant Man and Yang Yunfei accepted the order and began to do a head count. Those masked men in black had already escaped. Those who could not escape were directly killed by Dong Yu Schwer's soldiers, and those who were not completely dead were killed. He couldn't be soft-hearted towards these vicious and evil fellows. Master, I will have the carriage repaired immediately. Wang Zhan was extremely respectful in front of Gu Fei. Forget it, there's no need to go through so much trouble. Just find me a mount. Gu Fei waved his hand and said. This, yes. Wang Zhan said and retreated. Wang Zhan did not dare to be negligent when his master wanted a mount. But after looking around, the best mount in the team was the horned fire tiger that Dong Yu Shuer was riding on. "Your Royal Highness, my master wants a mount. Give your mount to my master!" Wang Zhan went straight to Dong Yu Shuer. "What?" Dong Yu Shuer was immediately displeased. He wanted her to give her mount to that sickly man? Chapter 57:24. Just because the disciple was powerful did not mean that the master was necessarily powerful. Some people did not have much cultivation, but the disciples they taught were extremely powerful. Their cultivation and battle prowess far surpassed that of the master. Something like this had happened before in the Limitless Sword sect. There was such an unconventional existence in the Limitless Sword sect. That person's cultivation in the way of the sword was really a mess, but the disciples he taught were each more powerful than the last. They were all famous experts of the way of the sword in the East Pole. His eldest disciple had even broken through to the Saint realm, and became a sword saint of the Infinite Sword sect. However, his cultivation was still in the Earth realm. This was a huge rumor in the cultivation world of the Infinite realm. In Dong Shuer's eyes, Wang Zhan's talent was too heaven-defying, so his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Meanwhile, her master was easily injured by someone. It was obvious that the disciple was stronger than the master. In the cultivation world, strength was everything. Dong Shuer thought highly of Wang Zhan, but she did not take his sickly master seriously. Dong Shuer did not know that she had lost the chance to make the East Moon Empire soar. Once an opportunity was missed, it would never come again. What made Dong Shuer very angry was that Wang Zhan actually wanted her to give her mount to his sickly master. "Are you out of your mind? You actually want me to give my mount to your master?" Dong Shuer's expression immediately turned cold. "Furthermore, my mount isn't something that just anyone can tame. If anyone wants to tame my mount, they'll have to first see if they have the ability to do so." Dong Shuer sneered. Her mount was a horned fire tiger. This horned fire tiger was originally the mount of the Skirich city lord. In order to curry favor with Dong Shuer, the Skirich city lord gave the horned fire tiger to her. The horned fire tiger was a ferocious beast in itself. Moreover, it was at the peak of the heaven realm. Ordinary people would not be able to get close to it. Dong Shuer could control the horned fire tiger because she had the beast-taming seal of the horned fire tiger. As long as the beast-taming seal was in Dong Shuer's hands, the horned fire tiger would obediently listen to her, not daring to resist. "You don't have to worry about that. You just have to hand over the horned fire tiger to me." Wang Zhan frowned when he saw the disdainful expression on Dong Shuer's face. A heaven realm cultivator dared to treat his master with disdain? Wang Zhan didn't say anything. "Haha! Does that master of yours have the qualifications to sit on my mount?" Dong Shuer laughed angrily. "Tisk, it's just a heaven realm beast. What can it do?" Wang Zhan said coldly. "You must have my mount?" Dong Shuer stared coldly at Wang Zhan, her expression darkening. She was starting to feel displeased. Yes. Wang Zhan didn't want to waste words with Dong Shuer. Dong Shuer was enraged. "Wang Zhan, don't you know what's good for you? You should know who you are now." Scram! Wang Zhan had been suppressing his anger for a long time. His sister and mother had been secretly sent away by Dong Shuer. He didn't even know where they were locked up. Thinking of this, Wang Zhan gritted his teeth in anger. One must know that the most important family he had in this world were only his mother and sister. Dong Shuer dared to have designs on them. This had crossed Wang Zhan's bottom line. "It's simple if you want me to scram. But before that, please tell me where my mother and sister are. I'll be eternally grateful." Wang Zhan also stared at Dong Shuer, with a solemn expression. "Wang Zhan, oh Wang Zhan. You're destined to never escape from my grasp." Dong Shuer suddenly laughed. As long as she had these two trump cards, Wang Zhan would have to listen to her obediently. "You!" Wang Zhan was furious. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed at Dong Shuer, who was on the horned fire tiger. Dong Shuer immediately felt her body tighten. She was wrapped up by an invisible force and flew towards Wang Zhan involuntarily. Wang Zhan, you. Dong Shuer was shocked. She did not expect Wang Zhan to attack her. Roar! The horned fire tiger Dong Shuer was riding roared and pounced at Wang Zhan. A gust of wind immediately filled the air. This was a ferocious tiger at the peak of the heavenly realm. The power of its pounce was not to be underestimated. Its claws were so sharp that they could pierce through stone and metal. Scram! With a kick, Wang Zhan sent the ferocious heavenly beast flying, smashing it into the forest beside the road. Boom! A ball of fire exploded in the forest, and a large area of the forest was directly burned to ashes by this ball of fire. The horned fire tiger's body burst with terrifying divine fire, causing a wave of heat to spread out. The surrounding people hurriedly retreated. This was a heavenly beast. Not everyone was as amazing as Wang Zhan. Wang Zhan grabbed Dong Shuer by the neck and lifted her into the air. The people around them were all shocked to see this. Your Royal Highness. Longxiang Man and Yang Feiyin rushed over. Wang Zhan, are you crazy? Wang Zhan, let go of Her Royal Highness. Longxiang Man and Yang Feiyin roared at Wang Zhan at the same time. If anything happened to Dong Shuer, they would die with her. At this moment, all the warriors drew their weapons and surrounded them. Especially the dozens of subordinates Dong Shuer subdued in Black Qilin City. They stared at Wang Zhan, because Dong Shuer had placed a seal on them. If Dong Shuer died, they would die with her. If I die, you will never see your mother and sister again. Dong Shuer looked at Wang Zhan, whose eyes were red. She was truly afraid. Brother Wang, just scare her. Don't be serious. At this moment, Fatty also spoke. He had received benefits from Dong Shuer after all. He could not let Wang Zhan bully her under his nose. If I want to kill you, it will be as easy as crushing an ant. Wang Zhan waved his right hand and threw Dong Shuer away. Yang Feiyin hurried forward to catch her, but she was only a half-step heaven realm. How could she catch Dong Shuer, who was thrown by Wang Zhan? The two of them rolled on the ground, covered in dust, and looked extremely pathetic. You better protect my mother and sister. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Wang Zhan looked at Dong Shuer, who was getting up from the ground. He did not expect their relationship to turn out like this. Did he change, or did Dong Shuer change? Sigh. He could not help but sigh. Roar! At this moment, the horned fire tiger that was kicked away by Wang Zhan roared. It leaped from afar and pounced at Wang Zhan. Evil creature! Wang Zhan waited for the flaming tiger to pounce on him before he dashed forward. He extended his right hand and grabbed the flaming tiger's head, smashing the flaming tiger's head to the ground. Bang! Dust flew everywhere. Wang Zhan smashed the fire tiger's huge head into the ground and pressed it down. The horned fire tiger roared and scratched with its claws, creating two huge pits on the ground. If you don't behave, I'll kill you and roast you, Wang Zhan said coldly. In the next moment, the fierce tiger quieted down and did not dare to move. This horned fire tiger was a peak heaven realm heavenly beast. It had long gained sentience. Master, this disciple could only find such amount. I hope Master will not blame this disciple. Wang Zhan came before Gu Fei and bowed carefully. The incomparably ferocious single-horned fire tiger was currently following behind Wang Zhan like an extremely obedient cat. Chapter 57-25. Wang Zhan actually snatched Dong Shuer's mount in front of everyone. This was a public slap to her face, causing her to lose face in front of all her subordinates. However, the fist was the law. Wang Zhan did not care whether Dong Shuer would lose face or not. If not for his scruples, Wang Zhan would have been even more ruthless. Fatty was just a bystander at this moment. He did not stand up for Dong Shuer because he had only promised to protect her. He was not one of her hired thugs. Dong Shuer, whose mount was snatched by Wang Zhan, could only find a black dragon colt to ride on temporarily. When Dong Shuer saw Wang Zhan give her horned fire tiger to his sickly master, she sneered. The horned fire tiger was a peak heaven realm fierce beast, which was also known as a heavenly beast in the limitless realm. Heavenly beasts were not so easy to subdue. Even if it was Dong Shuer, if she did not have the beast-taming seal, she would probably be eaten by the heavenly beast the moment she got close. Such heavenly beasts were not to be trifled with. And the horned fire tiger's beast-taming seal was in her hands. Dong Shuer was waiting for Gu Fei to make a fool of himself. Fatty looked at the gloating Dong Shuer and could not help but shake his head. He was also happy to watch the show from the side. Having a show to watch was always more interesting than not. The beast-taming seal was a method of controlling powerful fierce beasts in the limitless realm. With the beast-taming seal in hand, the fierce beast's life or death was at the mercy of the fierce beast's master. Earth realm, heaven realm, god realm, and even sage realm savage beasts, as long as they were captured and a beast-taming seal was planted on them, there was only one outcome: they would be at the mercy of their master. Savage beasts at Earth realm and above had already developed intelligence that was not inferior to humans. These savage beasts did not want to die. Therefore, the controlled savage beasts could only obey orders obediently. Of course, these savage beasts did not listen to anyone's orders. Every subdued savage beast would have a beast-taming seal, which sealed the wisp of the savage beast's life soul. If the savage beast angered its master, the master would destroy the imperial beast seal, and the savage beast would die. The one-horned fire tiger did not dare to be impudent in front of Wang Zhan, but this savage beast was after all a heavenly beast. How could it be willing to become the mount of a sickly man? At this moment, Gu Fei had completely restrained his aura. He was like an ordinary person with no cultivation at all. Sigh, there was no other way. Gu Fei was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger again. Master, please get on the horse. Ah, no, please get on the tiger, Wang Zhan said respectfully. Disciple is considerate. When I have time, I will give you a few pointers. Gu Fei nodded his head in satisfaction. Then, he mounted the tiger. This disciple was not lazy at all. This was the benefit of having a disciple. Just as Gu Fei mounted the one-horned fire tiger, the one-horned fire tiger beneath him immediately roared in a low voice. "Ha, there's going to be a good show." In the distance, Dong Shuer was gloating as she prepared to see Gu Fei being thrown off the horse by the one-horned fire tiger. It should be the miserable scene of him falling off the tiger. Be good. Since you and I have met, it can be considered fate. When we reach our destination, I will give you an opportunity. As Gu Fei said this, he rubbed the one-horned fire tiger's head. Tch, he's just a sickly man, and he dares to say that he will give someone an opportunity. Does he think he is a supreme infinite prime? In the distance, Dong Shuer could not help but sneer. She was very disdainful. Giving a savage beast a great opportunity just like that? What a joke. Even the fatty at the side did not think much of it. After all, an opportunity was not something that could be given casually, and not everyone had the ability to do so. Just as Dong Shuer was waiting to see Gu Fei make a fool of himself, the sound of something shattering suddenly came from her body. After Gu Fei rubbed the one-horned fire tiger's head, the heavenly beast actually became obedient. At this moment, Dong Shuer looked at the beast-taming seal in her hand that had shattered into 7 or 8 pieces, dumbfounded. How is this possible? Dong Shuer could not even speak properly. She turned her stiff neck and looked at the one-horned fire tiger under Gu Fei, only to see that it was also staring at her. The gazes of a human and a tiger collided in the void. Dong Shuer's hand trembled in fear, and the beast-taming seal fragments fell from her hand. This was a heavenly beast at the peak of the heavenly realm. And Dong Shuer was only at the beginning stage of the heavenly realm. To be targeted by an uncontrollable heavenly beast, and one that was at the peak of the heavenly realm at that, was definitely not a good thing for Dong Shuer. Dong Shuer retracted her gaze, her heart thumping wildly, and she broke out in a cold sweat. She had originally wanted to see Gu Fei make a fool of himself. Who would have thought that Gu Fei, who was riding on the back of the horned fire tiger, would not only not be overturned by the horned fire tiger, he even had a somewhat romantic and elegant bearing. Instead, she was the one who was shocked. And how did he do it? To actually be able to remove the beast-taming seal on the one-horned fire tiger, this was not something that ordinary people could do. Fatty, who was watching coldly from the side, stared at Gu Fei, who was riding on the one-horned fire tiger, and stroked his chin. His eyes were deep, and no one knew what he was thinking. Gu Fei, who was riding on the one-horned fire tiger, smiled slightly. Everything was under his control, and all the actions of these people were under his observation. Gu Fei thought to himself, these two want to see me make a fool of myself? Dream on. He could not make a fool of himself, no matter what. At this moment, the corpses were being collected, the broken carriages were being thrown away, the injured horses were slaughtered, and the injured soldiers were being treated by the doctors, and their lives were not in danger. The soldiers under Dong Shui were all busy. However, the air was still filled with the smell of blood. They temporarily set up a pot to cook, started a fire to roast meat, and continued their journey after eating and drinking. Those guys are really ambitious! At this moment, a few people in black stood on a mountain in the distance. Exactly, they were just attacked by the Black God Ridge bandits, and they actually roasted meat and cooked rice on the spot. They can really eat it. One of the men in black echoed. Junior sister, do you want me to sneak in and add some food to them? Another man in black asked. Forget it, if we kill them now, what's the point of watching the show? The woman in black shook her head and said. This? The two men in black behind the woman in black couldn't help but be startled. The mission to kill Dong Shui was a big one, and if they completed it, they would be able to live a good life. Those in the Dongwei royal capital who did not want to see Dong Shui return to the royal capital had joined forces to issue a mission on the Eastern Dark Roll, and this mission was Dong Shui's life. Chapter 57-26. The dark roll of the Wuji realm was relative to the white roll of the righteous sects. The Righteous Path's white list was a place for the Righteous Path's people to openly issue missions. The so-called Righteous Path and Evil Path could not coexist, so the missions on the white list were all targeted at those Evil Path cultivators. What missions were posted on the white list, and what rewards one could obtain after completing the mission, these were all public information that could be found. The Dark Roll was much more mysterious. No one knew who started the Dark Roll, but no one dared to underestimate the power behind the Dark Roll. Someone had once posted a mission on the Dark Roll. Someone had completed the mission, but the person who posted the mission wanted to renege on his promise. However, on the very next day, the guy who wanted to renege on his debt had his entire family annihilated. From then on, no one dared to renege on the Dark Roll. Just as Dong Shui escorted hegemonic war god out of Skyleap City, a mission appeared on the extreme east dark board. Someone wanted Dong Shui's life. The character reward was either a holy weapon or a divine medicine that could bring the dead back to life. The silent dark roll immediately became lively, because whoever killed Dong Shui would get the reward. At this moment, there were many people who wanted Dong Shui dead. The bandits of Black God Ridge immediately took action when they received the news. Who would have thought that the wild king of the Black God Ridge would not only fail to kill Dong Shui, he was even sent flying with 2 punches. He even lost his signature machete. This time, Wild King's face had been completely thrown away. When Wild King escaped back to the Black God Ridge, the leader of the Black God Ridge immediately smashed his cup. The dignified killing god of the Black God Ridge was actually defeated with just 2 punches. Does my Black God Ridge not want face? The Black God Ridge boss brought the 13 Black God Ridge bandits down the mountain. As the most powerful bandit organization in the East Moon Empire, the movements of the Black God Ridge were all monitored by the various factions. The boss of the Black Deity Ridge directly led the 13 great bandits of the Black Deity Ridge down the mountain. The news spread, and all the major forces of the East Moon Empire were shocked, especially the East Moon Empire. Investigate for me. I want to know what these fellows are up to. In the imperial palace of the East Moon royal capital, the imperial lord sat on the throne in the great discussion hall, and roared at the people kneeling before him. Imperial lord, there's no need to investigate. Those fellows from the Black God Ridge have come out in full force, so they're definitely targeting Her Highness. A divine general kneeling on one knee below the throne said with a solemn expression. What? Royal Lord East Moon exploded when he heard that. Long Xiangyu, since you know that those bandits are after Shuer, why are you still here? Could it be that even you are unwilling to see Shuer return to the imperial capital? Overlord East Moon roared furiously at the divine general kneeling before him. Your Majesty, this subordinate has already dispatched the Yue guards. Long Xiangyu said unhurriedly. Faced with the enraged royal Lord East Moon, he remained calm and composed. That was because he knew his value very well. Overlord East Moon would never touch him no matter what, because not only was he a godhood cultivator, but he also controlled the Yue Moon Guards. The Yue Guards were a mysterious force in the East Moon Empire. These Yue Guards were like ghosts, infiltrating every corner of the imperial capital and monitoring all sounds in the capital. Therefore, the Yue Guards were the secret agents of Overlord East Moon. It was precisely because of the existence of the Yue Guards that none of the officials of the East Moon Empire dared to act recklessly. This was because there were many pairs of eyes watching them from the shadows. When Overlord East Moon heard that Long Xiangyu had already sent out the Yue Guards, his fury subsided significantly. You get out of here and welcome Shuer as well, Overlord East Moon ordered loudly. Yes, Your Majesty. Long Xiangyu directly retreated. All of you, get out of here! Overlord East Moon roared at the officials in the Great Hall. The officials in the hall all retreated out of the hall in fear. Very soon, only the East Moon Emperor remained seated on the high throne in the hall. Should I ask the ancestor to take action? Overlord East Moon pondered. At this time, everyone who wanted to obtain the reward of the Dark Roll mission was gathering at where Dongwei Shuer was. They all wanted to kill her on her way back to the imperial capital. However, when the news of Wild King's defeat and escape spread, some people began to give up. Even someone as powerful as Wild King almost died in Dongwei Shuer's hands. Those who believed that their cultivation and battle prowess were inferior to Wild King naturally did not dare to have any ideas about Dongwei Shuer. Doing something that was clearly impossible was stupid and courting death. Those who could cultivate to the heavenly realm or godly realm were all extremely shrewd existences. Only those who believed that their cultivation and battle prowess were no weaker than Wild King were qualified to have any ideas about Dongwei Shuer. It was very difficult to survive in the cultivation world without any self-awareness. At this time Dongwei Shuer received a flying sword message. Then, she felt terrible. Someone actually posted a mission to kill her on the Dark Roll. And the reward was a sacred tool. That was a saint artifact. Sacred tools were Tao tools that only saints could wield. The saints were the strongest existences below the peerless realm. There were only a few peerless realm supremes in the entire realm of Unbounded. Some people would never have the chance to meet them in their entire lives. But the saints were different. In the realm of Unbounded, there were many saints. Without the peerless realm, the saints were undefeatable. Even a sage realm expert couldn't resist the temptation of a sage tool. If a powerful saint were to make a move, then wouldn't she be dead? Thinking of this, Dongwei Shuer could no longer stay calm. She was not sure if Fatty and Wang Zhan could take on a saint. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Who cares? I'm going to return to the Imperial City in style, and give those fellows a hard slap in the face. Dongwei Shuer's eyes were filled with determination. After eating and drinking, they continued on their way. Although a troop of thousands of people was very eye-catching, it had a fatal weakness, and that was that they couldn't move too fast, because they couldn't move fast at all. Gu Fei was riding on the Hornfire Tiger, which was very eye-catching in the group. However, he directly sat cross-legged on the back of the Hornfire Tiger, closed his eyes, and seemed to be cultivating. Actually, he was sleeping. The horned fire tiger carefully carried Gu Fei on its back and used its fire spiritual energy to form a fiery seat. Gu Fei sat cross-legged on the fiery throne, feeling warm and comfortable. When Dong Shuer saw this, she gnashed her teeth in hatred. When this horned fire tiger was her mount, she did not receive such treatment. "Sister, your brother is hungry. Hurry up and give me something to eat!" Dong Yuanliang suddenly shouted at Dong Shuer. "Then what do you want to eat, my good second brother?" Dong Shuer rode to Dong Yuanliang's carriage. "Do you even need to ask? Bring me some good wine and meat." Dong Yuanliang cursed. He was now locked in the carriage, with an overlord war god lying beside him. He was in a sorry state. He hated Dong Shuer to the core. "Get him something to eat," Dong Shuer said to the guard beside her, Yang Fei Yun. They were siblings after all. Although they had the same father but different mothers, if anything happened to Dong Yuanliang, she would be in trouble too. "Yes, Your Highness!" Yang Fei Yun quickly went to get the food. Dong Shuer left after giving the order. "Your Highness, it's bad. His Second Highness is dead?" But soon, Yang Fei Yun rushed to Dong Shuer's side in a panic. His face was pale and his voice was trembling. "What? You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.